Welcome back to Thursday Thoughts, a Bourbon Lens production. I'm excited because today I'm going solo and we're talking about something that I'm very passionate about. And no, it's not just bourbon or just rye whiskey. I'm talking about Honey Cask Finished Bourbon. In particular, I have 3 different ones that we're going to try and we're going to blind. I'm old school, so walk through what this looks like. Thank you to Starlight and my mini tastings there. And letting me keep these glasses on the bottom. There'll be A, B, and C. And then I am just going to pour the associated drinks into these nice Starlight glasses. Great for tasting. I've done mini barrel picks with them as well. So up first, we have the Southern Star 6-year Honey Cask Finished Bourbon. So what about this? So it's 6-year age stated at 106.8 proof. It was a limited release, something they did earlier this year. I tried it, excited to go back to it and blind it. And this all got started with the brand new release of the Blue Note Honey Cask, which is next. So this is their second release of this. So 2025's version comes in at 113.86 proof. So it's cask strength, Yard Distilling Company. Make sure you go and check out this podcast from this time last year. It was great. Had a lot of good conversation, learning about what they're doing. What's also interesting is a little tidbit on the back end after I introduce the last and final contestant. We can't have Starlight themed glasses and not have Starlight Honey Cask put in here. So really excited to talk about all 3 of these whiskeys. Now, what's really interesting is that they are from all 3 different states. So Blue Note does all their distillation at Green River. So we have a Kentucky, we have a Indiana, and we have a North Carolina. So it's going to be really fun to see how these play out. We're going to do a little bit of old school style here, like I showed you with the glasses. So going into glass A will be Starlight. Not for any other reason than I just did these by proof. So that goes into glass 1. Glass 2 will be the Southern Star Honey Cask. It's 106 proof. Starlight's 104. And last but not least is the Blue Note. It was actually requested that I do these blind via the Instagram page when we posted the picture of the Honey Cask Blue Note last week. So excited about this. As you can see, my hands are moving, and I am really bad at 3-card Monte. So hopefully this plays out to where I don't know which one's which, and I'm just going to give this another 5-6 seconds of spinning around. And so, one thing that's really interesting here at Bourbon Lens and at any other, whiskey production that's doing these things, we get to try a lot of different things, and this is none in particular. I remember when Starlight started to source their own honey and make these honey barrels. And it's kind of been a fad. There's a variety of other honey barrels or honey casks out there. Notably, Nelson's Brothers has one that they've created and gets rave reviews. I know that Short Barrel has one, the Bee's Knees, that people love and they talk about. I've not had a chance to try either of those. But these are 3 that I've tried. I know I like all 3 of them. And so excited to dive in and see what the qualities are. So I have no clue what the glasses are now, A, B, and C, but glass 1 for the first tasting. So I always like to look at the color. I think honey gives a very dark color. It's really rich. And depending on how they source the honey, I think is always interesting. Now, I may tip the glass back and you may be able to see the bottom of the glass. Then you'll know which one I'm talking about. I don't. So that's good. I normally close my eyes when I drink anyway because I have to ponder my thoughts. So on the nose, it's really inviting. I do get a little bit of that herbal honey note, which is great. If it's a honey finished, you want to be able to get that. But it does have a nice caramel vanilla note that goes along with that. I'm getting some nice stewed fruits. So I like that the honey is balanced with stewed fruits. I think of honey as a great amplifier to a lot of things. But I also think of honey as an opportunity to sweeten, like savory things like chicken, and do like a soy honey glazed type chicken. I'm really more balanced. This one is on the nose. It has a little bit of savory, has a little bit of sweet. So it's kind of mixing honey both ways. There's a little bit of spice on the back end, but not a ton. Cheers. First sip of the night too. So we'll have to go back to this one just a little bit more, but I can tell you right off rip, It is a little bit lighter on the palate, which I like. It's got a little bounce to it. Honey, apple crisp. It's very dessert-like on the palate, very enjoyable. That honey kind of coats your palate, and it does give that sticky viscosity that you're looking for in a lot of whiskeys. You want a full-bodied one, and my like saliva glands, I don't know, I can't speak right now, are going off the wall. I mean, it is just making my mouth water. So let's go in for a second drink. It does brighten up a little bit more. It does have a little bit more baking spice, barrel spice on the back end. The finish is a little short. I'm not getting a lot of honey back here. And typically when I drink honey, I drink it with teas and things like that. And I get that feeling in my throat. This doesn't have that traditional Kentucky hug. It is a nice, just easy, enjoyable sip to your esophagus. What isn't, some people love. Other people really enjoy that Kentucky hug. I also want to take a moment to shout out my wife. I don't get a lot of like video with this because I'm normally standing in front of this sign, but this was the addition to my bar last year, and so this LED sign's great. The other thing is I hate doing glassware, and so I finally decided to do dishes before I got this rolling for the night, and so glassware, it's got to dry, and air drying is the best, I believe, and then I'll make it look nice on the back end when I go to take a picture with them. So glass two. I do think this is a little bit lighter. I don't think it's as dark as the first one. This one's creamy. Like, and people probably like, how do you smell creaminess? It's like creamy caramel, creamy honey. Like it's coming out of that. It looks like it smells. That's really approachable. A little bit of like cream soda note in there. Big fan of that note in whiskeys. Vanilla, toffee. Not a lot of spice in this one. A little bit of cracked pepper, maybe. But that's an enjoyable nose. I think if I were to say which nose do I like better, one or two so far, two by far has just this kind of blows out of the water. But, got to drink it, got to feel the whole experience. So this is overall brighter. I don't think the honey is as done. I think it's got a lighter kiss of honey, but I do get the honey all the way through. It has that wildflower type of honey. So it's got some of that funkiness to it, a lot of herbaceousness. That's nice. It coats your palate, but it's not like drawing the saliva out like the first one was. This one is just like coating and tingling and all over the palate. That's great. Now I'm like fantasizing what a Gold Rush would do with these, like with like a honey simple, just like jack that honey all the way up to like a 5,000. Maybe that's next week. I just keep the honey train going. What's interesting with both of these is the finish isn't super long. It's enjoyable, but it's not long or lasting. And they both kind of just like punch. And this one's got a little bit more bite to it. As I sit here, it's got a little more of that hug, but not much. But it's nice. And that's what I'm paying to attention more when I'm drinking now. It's really flavor notes are going to be different between me, you, and everyone else. But what I am finding enjoyable is experiencing the mouthfeel, the viscosity, feeling what it is on the back palate, what's lingering with me. Those are the things that I like to see stand out. I think that makes whiskey drinking enjoyable. I'm not so much concentrated on the tasting notes because again, we're all different. And Grandma's Apple Pie was made a variety of different ways. And we talk about that in our 15 Stars podcast that will launch in 2 weeks. So make sure you're catching up with them and their brand new First West series. I always have to promote the rest of the podcast and what they're doing. Beautiful bottle. Rick and Ricky are doing some great things with 15 Stars. If you've not checked them out, check them out. They were on the podcast almost 100 episodes ago, and they'll be back on here at the back end of August. So last sip, right? How does this one compare to the other two? So this one has a lot more of that bourbon note to it. I get some of that corn sweetness, which I like. I love like the idea of like flavored popcorn with like honey molasses type of characteristics. It's more of a like clover honey of this one, like that big bear. I'm usually excited when you squeeze the bear and then his belly gets unfull. Going into this, I had probably drank the most of the Starlight one, and I thought I would peg that one like immediately because I've had it so much. Because I feel like the honey is done really well and it's very viscous. So as I get into this one, I couldn't tell you which one's which. If I had to guess, I do think this one is the Starlight one as I'm sipping this right now. But I really wouldn't be mad at what this one is. And I'm going to have to rank these. I get that 100%. Everyone has to do a little bit of ranking here, there, and everywhere. But by no means do I say that any of these are bad. I just think it's the flavor profile that I enjoy. I think Honey Cask Finished Bourbons do a couple things before I give you my answers and I go back through and taste these and pick 1 and 2, because I think I have a clear 3 and then 1 and 2 I think are going to be a fight. So the 2 things that I think Honey Finished Bourbons do, right? I think the viscosity on the mouthfeel typically is number 1. Number 2, I think it allows you to play with the bourbon a little bit more, right? So if you have an overly spicy bourbon, high rye content, having that honey balances it out with the corn. So you get, a nice dichotomy between that spice and the overall flavor profile. So I think honey is not a way to cover up. I think honey is a way to play with the bourbon more, accentuate it with those sweet notes, a lot like you do with a lot of other finishes, but I think this one can be a little more delicate. And I do like the idea of locally sourcing and playing around with those types of things, because it does give, that seasonality. And these also would all make great hot toddies. So, depending on how you use your bourbons and finished bourbons, these might be something that you look at. So getting down to brass tacks, we're about 15 minutes in here and want to make sure that we tell you what we think, or what I think. I guess I'm so big, I think I have the personality of Scott and I, even though it's only me on the podcast right now. So I'm going to guess C is Starlight, or glass 3 is Starlight. And going back to that, glass 2 is Southern Star and glass 1 is Blue Note. That's just my assumption. So glass 2 was my original favorite nose, but after going from 3 to, I think 1 is my favorite nose. So with that, then I have to go to complexity. And so I think 2 and 1, or 3 and 1 have the most complexity of them all. 2 has a little less complexity. So with that being said, number 3 on the list will be glass number 2. Glass number 2 is C. So that's the Blue Note. Like, as I came back to it, I felt like the honey note didn't stand up to the other ones, right? When you kind of go boom, 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 this one didn't stand up from the honey perspective. So is it enjoyable? Will I finish this glass? Yes, I will. Will I continue to support Blue Note bourbon? Yes, I will. Will I continue to support things coming out of Green River? Yes, I will. So that being said, I was wrong, because I pegged that one to be Southern Star. Doesn't mean it's wrong. Just, I wasn't right. But I will say I am right about glass number 3. That is Starlight 100%. However, that is my number 2. So glass number 3 is A, which is Starlight 104 proof. This is quintessential Starlight distillate. This is 4.5 years old. This bottle's a little bit older that I have. This is T. Huber. You'll see a lot of B. Huber or C. Hubers now, but this is Ted's bourbon through and through in this. 4.5 years old, 104.8 proof. It's dynamite. I really like Starlight. I love that old pot still funky stuff that they had going on. I know they got the clean distillate runs they got going on now. Excited to see what that looks like 4 or 5 years from now. But that stands out. I've had it a lot but you do get that locally sourced honey from the farm. It gives you those fall vibes in a glass. So great job, Starlight, and great job, all of you all. So that means the winner of this honey bourbon blind is none other than Southern Stars. And Pete and Vienna, Barbara, great people, and couldn't be more excited for what they are doing down in Statesville, North Carolina, and what they're creating. Really passionate about them. We're excited because coming up, we'll be talking about their bottled and bond rye whiskey here on Thursday Thoughts. Just came out. Actually, my laptop's sitting on the box that it came in. So I'm excited about that. So tune back in for Thursday Thoughts when we talk about bottled and bond rye whiskey. So in that, we're going to be looking at that bottle in particular from the Statesville Contract Distilling Distillery, Southern Star. We're going to be pairing that against Old Forester, the 117 series, and most importantly, one of my favorites, High Rest Bottle and Bond rye whiskey. So tune back in here in a couple weeks. That's going to be a rye whiskey episode, and we'll be talking about that. The other thing, I teased this a couple weeks ago. We've got a lot of whiskey coming in, and it's hard to always get our thoughts out, and I am not the best writer. So I'm going to also be opening up another channel, weekly, where I do a Friday YouTube and we do a review. These are going to be quick hitting reviews, less than 5 minutes. The first one is actually going to drop right after Thursday Thoughts. If you got a name for us, great. I'm not a marketing person. Would love a name theory or to name the series something. Don't really care. I don't want to steal Wayne's like Fresh Crack Friday or a Fresh Pop Friday or whatever it is. I don't want to do it because all of these might not be fresh, right? These might be something I'm revisiting. These might be something that you all tell me you want me to try, or you send me something that you would like me to try. I'm not going to do what Bruzel does where he like mixed things up based upon tasting notes. I found that to be disgusting. Or what you do with One Big Pikey. Good for them. My stomach is not amenable to those things. But if you are just catching the very end and wanting to know a little bit about Bourbon Lens, two things I'll let you know. One, the winner of tonight is Southern Star's Honey Cask Finished Bourbon, followed by number 2, which would be Starlight, Carl T. Huber, Honey Finished, and then lastly would be the Blue Note. Like them all. It's great to do them blonde. That's the way you got to do it. That's the way you get the flavor profiles the way it is. And next, make sure you tune into the next episode of Thursday Thoughts, where we look at bottled and bond rye whiskey, and then catch our new channel, new conversations happening on Friday, where we talk about whatever I want to review that week. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.